stop recording. Right, I've now started recording. Unfortunately, we've only got 12 people. I've had absolutely no idea why we can't get the extra, but okay, so tonight we're covering houses, and houses is a big subject, and I'm trying to make it in this presentation as easy as possible. It doesn't really matter what house system you use. What I'll be going through today will work with any house system, but just to let you know that I do use the equal house system because for me, I find that's the easiest to use. Now I'm going to share my screen and we're going to look at a presentation and then we'll get into questions afterwards. So here we go. And so we're going to be exploring our celestial neighbourhood and unlocking the mysteries of astrological houses, even empty ones. We're also doing stelliums today. So welcome to this talk on astrological houses. Astrological houses are fundamental components of astrology, representing different facets of life journey. With 12 unique houses, each linked to specific themes like identity, relationships and career, understanding their significance is key. When a house lacks planetary placements, it's not devoid of meaning. It highlights areas needing attention for personal growth. Join us as we delve deeper into unlocking the secrets of these cosmic abodes. So this talk's been written to help you understand the very basics of astrological houses without giving you a headache. Hopefully this presentation will be simple enough for beginners. However, I will make some assumptions. I'll assume you at least know what sign of the zodiac you are and you've investigated various books, websites and/or podcasts to give you some understanding of how astrology works and what it can and can't do. If you ever want to see astrologers fight, then start a discussion on the best house system to use. So here's a typical astrology forum discussion. Question. I had a general question as to which house system most people use. I usually use either Placidus or Koch. I've heard that Placidus is better for analysing personality psychological traits and Koch is better for transits and progressions. Any thoughts? Answer. I've heard the opposite. Placidus is best for natal and transit progressions and Koch for psychological. Now that's taken from the website astro.com, which I used to teach my students with, and they used to have a forum on there. The forum was on there for about 30-40 years and then it's ceased. But that discussion then started a conversation that carried on for something like 6 weeks. It went on for a very long time, but it only started with that person asking which house system do most people use, and it just went on for absolutely weeks with everybody putting their input in. Anyway, in all these discussions, there wasn't a single mention of one of the older systems. The focus was on all the other systems, Placidus, Regiomontanus, Koch, Porphyry, Whole Sign and Campanus. Not one person mentioned equal house. So I've used the equal house system since I first learned astrology and I love it so much. I've used the other systems, however, I'm very interested in chart shape. The shape of the chart doesn't show up as well in these other systems. But I just want to clarify that there's room in astrology for every house system. I just prefer equal house. So what's a house system? An astrological birth chart, everyone hopefully will have had theirs emailed to them, is divided up in some way to represent different areas of life. Modern charts are made as a circle with a horizontal line across the chart representing the horizon. Ancient charts were sometimes drawn as squares. Anything below the horizon would not be physically visible to us on Earth on the day of birth. Anything above the line might be, depending on which planets included. Is only 7 possible with the naked eye. The 3 outer planets, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto, can only be seen with telescopes and hence were only discovered when telescopes were invented. A chart can then be divided by signs or by mathematical degrees. So this is a chart for a poet called Milton, and we'll come on to what it looks like today. But this is what his chart looked like, that was created by somebody not soon after he was born, so in the same century. And in this chart, you'll see written in red on the left-hand side, Mercury, Venus and Saturn, and that's next door to the planets. If you know your symbols, you'll see the little symbol for Mercury, you'll see the little symbol for Venus, and you'll see the little squiggly one for Saturn, and they're all in the second house. So you'll see how that's numbered. I've put in red the first house and the seventh house, and all the other houses are basically triangles, and it ends up as a square. It doesn't look that different from what a chart looks like today. So if I just go back, so there's the placements of all the planets with all the degrees on them, but this is what they look like today. So there's no right or wrong way even of making a chart. That's how they did it then. So John Milton was a poet, and he was born in the year 1608. If you use Astro Data Bank for doing charts, anything before 1700, there are two different calendar systems, because the calendar systems were changed. There's one called Gregorian and there's another one called Julian. And this has been created using the Julian calendar because that's what they had back then. But anyway, it's just a history lesson. So this is a round chart. Planets below the horizon are not visible. So if you imagine the circle in the center of the chart is the Earth spinning in space, and the line going across it is the horizon. So obviously anything below the Earth isn't visible to us on the day. So you see this person, the sun is below the horizon because they're born really early in the morning at 6:30 a.m. The planets that are above the horizon for this particular person, there's only one, and that's Neptune in the sign of Virgo in the 10th house. But as it showed in the previous chart here, Mercury, Venus and Saturn in the second, they're still in the second house, even using a different house system and a different method. Those planets are still located in the same position, because if we remove all the lines for the houses, the planets, forget about houses, the planets will still be in those same positions, because it's represented by where they actually are in the actual solar system above our heads or below our Earth. So just a little bit of astronomy here. See, the ecliptic is the journey that the sun makes around the Earth in 1 year, and it's called the ecliptic. This circle around the Earth includes the path the sun makes over our heads in 1 year. We know that the sun doesn't actually travel around the Earth. It's the Earth that travels around the sun. However, in astrology, we calculate things from our perspective on Earth, looking upwards at the sky. And as you'll know, every day the sun rises and sets. This path that the sun makes around our heads has a belt of sky called the zodiac, with the ecliptic at its centre. And the zodiac is a division of the sky along that ecliptic by the signs that you're familiar with, Aries to Pisces. They're calculated astronomically using the spring solstice as the first day of Aries. So that's a lovely illustration by one of my students who is now a professional astrologer. You've got the sun, the earth, the path the sun makes, the ecliptic. She's written the signs of the zodiac in there with a little symbol in the centre. That's the earth. You've got a little thing there with the moon, and then you've got the sun going around our heads. So what are houses used for? Houses personalise the astro chart. A house system is a division of the circle by other means, generally using some mathematical system or time system. Having houses personalises the chart and gives each planet in it a home, hence the term house. A bit like when you're sitting at a table with other people, someone sitting right next to you is going to feel different to someone sitting at the opposite side of the table. Any house system isn't real. Unlike the planets and their orbits, it's not something that actually exists. You could say that the division of the zodiac isn't real. However, it does use astronomical calculations and is a precise method of measurement of the sky above our heads. And obviously, our sky isn't divided into anything, let alone 30-degree segments. So we need to keep in mind that any house system is just a way of adding poetry and creativeness to the chart. And there isn't a line in the sky between one sign and another. Now, there are lots of different house systems, different methods of calculating a chart. And I follow equal house systems, and there's two of them. So in these systems, the zodiac's divided into equal segments of 30 degrees, with the ascendant either marking the cusp of the first house or situated within it. The MC or medium Coley can be situated anywhere between the 8th and the 11th house. Now, the whole sign system, which is very popular and was made even more popular by the Astrology podcast and Chris Brennan and a few other astrologers as well, is the most ancient house system of all, but it wasn't called that at the time. There, the sign of the ascendant is the first house with the ascendant somewhere in it. So in the whole sign system, all the houses are all the same size and all the same sign. Now, the equal house system, which I use, is one of the oldest, but for me, it's the easiest to use, and the chart starting point is at the ascendant. The chart is then divided equally with the ascendant degree. So if your ascendant is 15 degrees, each of your houses will start at the number 15 and be 30 degrees big at the start of each house. We'll come on to that if you don't quite understand it. I'm not going to read this out. This is there for you to read yourself if you want to watch this back afterwards. But these are the unequal house systems. They use 4 quadrants. They have the ascendant, the descendant, the MC and the IC, and then they're divided into further segments of unequal size. However, the unequal houses are all opposite each other and of the same size. And they're called Porphyry, Campanus, Regiomontanus, Placidus and Koch. And the most popular one in the West is the Placidus system. That's what most people use because most computer programs use that. And if you read my book, Enjoying Equal House, you'll find out why that became popular, but I won't go into that now. But a lot of computer systems, websites, etc., use the Placidus system. However, you can't use that if you live up higher in places like Iceland and Greenland. That system doesn't work. Now, there's no agreement among astrologers as to which house system is the correct one. No system has been proven to be inherently superior to the others. All that can be done is to choose a house system based on the personal experience of which one appears to give the most accurate results. The disadvantage of the unequal house systems is they don't work for places at very high latitudes, such as Greenland, Iceland or Finland. And if you try and create your chart on astro.com and ask it to do the Placidus system, it'll revert to another system because it won't be able to calculate it for that. It's a time-based system. The longing for everything. Students of astrology long for a computer program that will give every combination of every planet in every sign in each of the 12 houses. I'm sure someone somewhere has made that program by now. However, since there are 10 planets that we use and 12 houses and 12 signs, the maths add up to a possible 1,440 different combinations. And if someone was writing that computer program, they'd have to make 1,440 entries explaining those combinations. Now, most computer programs will give you planet in sign and planet in house, and as yet haven't seen planet in sign and house, but maybe one day that'll happen. It also, any computer system, doesn't take into account having more than one planet in a house or none. So how do we make sense of this? This is where keywords really help, and I've developed a few that might help you. Now, if you managed to get the email that gave you the reminder for today, there would have been a link on there to go to my website to download the keywords that we're just going through now. It's permanently on my website now so that you can access it again if you didn't manage to get it for today. So these keywords are the ones that I used in the titles of my series, the Sun Sign books published by O Books. And I used rather cheeky, humorous titles. I've changed for this lecture the keywords for Virgo, Capricorn and Pisces because those books were titled How to Soothe a Virgo, How to Cheer Up a Capricorn and How to Survive a Pisces. So I've substituted Virgo for the word perfect or perfect because that's a keyword for the sign Virgo. So you're talking about something's perfect or it's going to be, or you're going to perfect it. Okay. The other one, Capricorn, I put is be serious, and Pisces, I put be intuitive, because I was going to talk about survive. I am Pisces, by the way. Now, here we have Queen Elizabeth II. God bless her, who's now in heaven. This is her natal chart. And I've just plonked in all the way around the circle the keywords for the signs of the zodiac that go around her chart. So starting on the left-hand side at the ascendant at the 8:45 position, we've got the sign of Capricorn. So I've put that keyword in there, be serious, and going all the way around the zodiac. So there's your keywords. Okay, so that's a way of writing those onto your own chart so you can memorize them and learn them and make it easy for yourself. Here are the planet keywords. So the sun is the ego or the self. The moon is the emotions. Mercury is communication. Mars is action, aggression or energy. Venus is love, taste and or money. Jupiter's luck or higher learning. Saturn's responsibility. Uranus is sudden happenings. Neptune's intuition. And Pluto, there isn't any way of saying that in one word, unfortunately. So I put deep change and transformation. I will come back to these keywords as we progress, but to help you remember everything, if you print off your chart and write those words next to your signs and planets in your own chart, you'll find understanding your chart much easier. So here we go again with good old Queenie. I've written the keywords for those planets around her chart. So Saturn, top left, responsibility. Mars, action, aggression and energy. Jupiter, luck, higher learning, etc. So I've written those on her chart so you can see that's how to do it, so that you can make it easier for yourself. Here's the house keywords. First house is the self, the second house is finances, the third house is communication, fourth house is home and roots, fifth house is creativity / romance / children. You can choose one or the other. Sixth house is health, routine and work. Seventh house is close personal relationships. There is no other meaning for the seventh house. Sometimes people use in old astrology enemies, but I've never seen that. Eighth house is sex, birth, death and investments, which is a bit of a weird combo, but there we go. Ninth house, philosophy, further education and travel. 10th house has only got one meaning, it's career. 11th house, friendships / groups. 12th house, the hidden self. So here we are. I've written in the Queen's chart the keywords for her houses. So there they go, round for anti-clockwise for the houses number 1 to 12. And as you'll see, she's got planets in some houses and empty in others. So using the keywords early, let's make your life easier by just using those words to describe the combos you have in your chart. So let's say you have Sun in Capricorn in the 5th house. You can make a nice little sentence. You, the Sun, take seriously, Capricorn, your creativity / romance, children, 5th house. This is the chart of Princess Catherine. That's Kate Middleton, Prince William's wife. And there again, I've written her sentence. You'll see her sun signs there in the 5th house. That's using the equal house system. I'm not too sure where it turns up in Placidus, but anyway, you, the sun, take seriously, Capricorn, your creativity, romance, children, 5th house. She has got kids and she does take parenting them seriously. But also the 5th house is not just children. It's also creativity and it's also romance. So you could have somebody that has Sun in the 5th and doesn't have any kids. Doesn't matter. Maybe they're very creative. So remember that the words aren't final. They have alternatives and you might need to sub a different word for what you know you have in your life. So let's do another example. Let's say you've got Uranus in Scorpio in the 3rd house. Trust, Scorpio, the suddenness, Uranus, of communication. This chart is Lady Gabriella Windsor. She's a royal family writer and she's second cousin to King Charles. So you'll see her Uranus is in her 3rd house. I haven't got a pointer, so I can't point to it, I'm afraid. But you'll see the numbers of the houses are written in the centre of the chart. So trust, Scorpio, the suddenness, Uranus of communication. She's a writer and a very erratic one at that. So she writes columns and articles. She has written for one particular publication for a while, but she does quite jump about a bit with her writing, which is why I think that Uranus in the 3rd house quite suits what she actually does for her living. So maybe move your keywords around into a different order for your combos until they feel right for you. And again, print off your chart and add the meanings into each of your houses and study them. Do they feel, look, sound right for you? So here we have Queen Neat again, Moon in Leo in the 7th. So lavish emotions on or with your partner. Now, she was very attached to Prince Philip, her other half. They made a good combo. They stayed together for a hell of a long time. And I think she quite astutely lived her Moon in Leo in the 7th. If you remember during the pandemic, the photographs of her in the church on her own, behaving herself, that's the serious Capricorn ascendant, but she looked rather sad there all on her own without her husband. But she did what she was supposed to, inverted commas, do because of that serious Capricorn ascendant. But anyway, Moon in Leo in the 7th, lavish emotions on your partner. Sun in Taurus in the 4th, her home, her roots, her family were very important for her. I think she got a bit upset when one of the houses she lived in, it wasn't Buckingham Palace, but one of them, Laura will know, one of the houses burnt down or had a fire there, and that was really gutting for her. So the home, the roots, the house was very important for her, and that's where she wanted to be. Satisfy the self at home, because the key word for Taurus is satisfy. So practice with the keywords and see if they seem right for you. Some of you might have to juggle the words around to make a readable sentence. Empty houses. Now, one thing you'll come across when you first start learning astrology is finding out there are gaps in your chart. Mary, I've got an empty house. What does it mean? Don't panic. Everyone will have at least 2 empty houses, purely due to the fact that we're only using 10 planets and there are 12 houses. And some people can have more than 5 empty houses, which is more likely if they were born during an outer planetary conjunction. So you can learn more about that in my book, The Astrology of Indigos. Now, this person is a client, so I cannot reveal their data, but they were quite happy to share their date of birth, but not to identify who they are. And you'll see that they have planets in only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 houses. They've got planets in the 12th, the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th. So they've got a hell of a load of empty houses. So all those computer program analyses won't help them at all to understand their chart. But sign rulers. Each sign of the zodiac has a planet that looks after it, and we call them rulers, like some king or queen ruling a country. Don't forget, astrology is an ancient craft, and quite a lot of the terminology has barely altered over the centuries. So here are the accepted rulers to each sign of the zodiac. So Leo's ruler is the sun. Cancer's ruler is the moon. Gemini and Virgo's ruler is Mercury. Taurus and Libra's ruler is Venus. Aries' ruler is Mars. Sagittarius' ruler is Jupiter. Capricorn's ruler is Saturn. Aquarius' ruler is Uranus. Don't worry, you don't have to remember any of these. Pisces' ruler is Neptune, and Scorpio's ruler is Pluto. So in more ancient astrology, before the 3 outer planets were discovered, Aries and Scorpio's ruler was Mars. If you're doing old astrology, this is, and especially if you're doing Hellenistic astrology. Aquarius and Capricorn's ruler was Saturn. Sagittarius and Pisces rulers were Jupiter. So to make it even easier, think of sign rulers as planets certain signs have an affinity for, or that planets operate in a more normal manner when they're in certain signs. So back to houses. Let's return to Queen Elizabeth's chart. She's got an empty 10th, an empty 9th, an empty 5th, and an empty 12th. How did she have children? In Queen Elizabeth's chart, she has 4 empty houses, 5, 9, 10, and 12. Now, you could be thinking because her 5th house of creativity and children's empty, she therefore wouldn't have any kiddies. But actually, she had 4 children. She gave birth to Charles, Anne, Andrew, and Edward. So that's when we use the ruler to her 5th house. So her 5th house starts in the sign of Taurus, which is a fertile sign, and that ruler is Venus. So let's find out where her natal Venus is located. So in this lovely illustration here, we've got the Queen's chart, just focusing on her 5th house, which has been highlighted in pink. And you'll see the symbol there for Taurus. Her empty 5th house starts in the sign of Taurus. Taurus is ruled by Venus, and her Venus is located in her 2nd house. So you then make the connection. So Taurus is ruled by Venus, Venus located in the 2nd house of money. Maybe she viewed her children as a financial investment. She certainly had to have children, otherwise there'd be no one to inherit the title or carry on the royal line, which, if you ask me, is a big concern to a royal family. If they don't have any kids, the family ceases to exist. So a bit more practice. Let's practice a bit more with your chart. We could also do rulers to houses, but I won't cover that today because that might just confuse things. So look at your empty houses. See the sign of the zodiac it starts with. Oops, let me just go backwards a bit. So the Queen, her 5th house is empty, starts in the sign of Taurus. So let's just assume that her 7th house was empty. Her 7th house starts in the sign of Cancer, and Cancer is ruled by the moon, and her moon is located in the 7th house in reality, but say it wasn't, it was in another house. We then analyse the house that planet actually exists in. Okay. Now today I'm also covering stelliums. So stelliums are a cluster of planets conjunct. Don't worry, we're going to do questions afterwards. Conjunct each other in a house. The word comes from stella, meaning a star or stars. With the extra energy centered into one place, there's a laser-like focus on the personality traits or area of life it represents. It identifies something special, a complicated combination of issues, interests, and gifts. It can be a career indicator, and it may be your passion. Now, there are 2 types of stelliums. A stellium by sign includes 4 or more planets in the same zodiac sign, although they might not all be in the same house. A stellium by house consists of 4 or more planets in the same house, regardless of their signs. If both sign and house align, the influence is amplified. Typically, a stellium excludes combos of the Sun, Mercury, and Venus because these planets frequently appear together due to their proximity. They fall into the same sign for about 40 to 59 days each year, making this configuration fairly common. Triple conjunctions, that's 3 planets very close to each other, occur when 3 planets are close to each other, blending their energies. Some modern astrologers consider this a stellium, but traditionally 3 planets aren't enough to meet the criteria. Conjunctions usually allow an orb of 8. An orb is the amount of mathematical degrees you'll allow for something to be an aspect, and 8 is the maximum between one planet and another to say to say that they're conjunct, which again is another astrological term. But you can stretch this if planets B and C are close enough to link planets A and C. For instance, in this example, Mars is 5 degrees Scorpio, Jupiter's at 11 and Pluto's at 15. Can be considered a conjunction due to Jupiter, which is in the middle's influence, and the orb can also widen with the Sun or Moon if that's involved. Now, a super conjunction is a rare event where 3 of the slower moving planets, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto, align within 8 to 10 degrees. This last occurred in 88-89 with Saturn, Uranus and Neptune in Capricorn. Stelliums involving these slow moving planets are significant, often tied to major social, political and economical shifts. Due to their lengthy orbits, these planets rarely align, but several conjunctions occurred between 1960 and 2010, affecting millions. These conjunctions influence those born under them, potentially leading to both personal struggles and the ability to address global issues. People born between 88 and 96, and there's quite a few of you today that signed up for the webinar, whether or not you got in the room or not is we'll come back to that. During the Uranus-Neptune conjunction may feel torn between technological progress and compassion. They're sensitive to societal issues and often embody their generation's challenges. Now, this is a black American poet, and her name is Morgan Parker. She was born on the 19th of December in 1987, and she has a whopping stellium in her 7th house. And her conjunctions cover from the 6th to the 8th houses. She was diagnosed with depression and anxiety when she was 15 years old and has continued with this therapy. So I then made a chart to see what was going on for her at that age. And on the outside of this chart, in the blue rim, you'll see on the left-hand side the squiggle for Saturn, and it's in the sign of Gemini, and she's got a Gemini ascendant. So transiting Saturn was going over her ascendant in 2002 when she was 15. And then Pluto started a long journey through her stellium. You'll see on the right-hand side of her chart, the P for Pluto is right slap bang on her moon. So this is when all her troubles started. So we're not going to blame a planet saying, oh, it's Pluto's fault she got the depression, but we are going to note the fact that she felt that transit. You should read her poetry, it's marvellous. So this is somebody else with a stellium. Again, this is a person that has volunteered the chart, but not their name. They were born on the 26th of January, 1984. And I've just called this indigo chart. And you'll see they've got an even tighter stellium, which is only covering 4 houses. You'll see a planet or some symbols in the 5th house. That's Chiron, which is in a planet's astrology. And you'll see the symbol for the North Node. Again, that's not a planet. This person has a very squishy chart. Now you can use keywords for stelliums. So indigo has 4 planets in the 12th house: Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and Neptune in Capricorn. So if you look back, you've got Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, and Neptune in the 12th. So you could work that as your hidden self, that's 12th house, needs to be serious with communication, luck, love, and intuition. Because your computer programs won't give you analysis of your stellium. Just lob those keywords in there. So this person also has 4 planets in their 10th. So if I go back, there's the 10th, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. You could read that as your career, that's 10th house, needs to use your emotions, responsibility, energy, and transformation. Summary. The 12 unique houses are where our planets express themselves. Using keywords, we can make a quick assessment of each planet in each sign in each house. When a house lacks planetary placements, look for the planet ruler to the sign of the house and which house that planet is located in, and understand the connection between those 2 houses. If you've got a stellium, look to the house placement of it and give it a hug. It's working hard for you. So you can find my podcast called Learn Astrology with Mary on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Audible, YouTube, Deezer, and Player FM, and a few other platforms as well. The first 20 episodes teach you astrology basics. There's over now 400 episodes, and they come out every week on a Sunday. That's just my references for today. And a big thank you to Leah Wilt, who contributed the illustrations for my book Enjoying Equal House, why one of the oldest house systems is so easy to use. So big thanks to Leah. There's the book itself, Enjoying Equal House, which goes into more detail, which I haven't got time to do today in the webinar, but you can find that on Amazon and various other different platforms. So I hope you found that useful, and I'm just going to escape out of there. And I want to shut this, which doesn't want to do it. Escape. Quit. There we go. And I shall just stop saving. Bum, 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 bum. Stop sharing, Mary. Where's my stop sharing button gone? There. Stop sharing. There we go. Now, thank you to the people that managed to get into the room. I apologise to the ones that didn't. Anybody got any questions, please unmic yourself and shout at me. If you've got a question, if you didn't understand anything that I went through, then just ask me a question. I've got everyone's charts in a folder on my desktop. So if you've got an empty house and you're not too sure how it works, or you've got a stellium in a house, but the keywords that I've given you should be helpful to use. But if you've got any other questions, just there's no such thing as a daft question. So I'm all ears to your questions.
Hi, Penna here. So I'm. Oops.
Oh, sorry, you go.
No, go ahead. I'll wait.
No, it's fine. Honestly, you go first.
Okay, thank you. I just have a question regarding the house system, because now I am born in Iceland.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to do my chart using various different houses or house systems, and it comes out differently, of course. And what moves mainly is my planets that go into the 12th house and the 11th house. So I don't know, I just find it, I'm still learning, obviously. Yeah. So I find it a little bit confusing.
Absolutely, it will be. In the equal house system, you won't get that confusion because we're dividing the whole of the chart up by the same degree that your chart starts with. So your ascendant is 17 degrees Virgo. That won't change in any house system. That'll be the same. Yeah. Okay. Now, if you take all the houses out and just ignore them, all those lines for the houses, and just look at the position of the planets, because you were born in the morning, the sun has risen. Okay, the sun is above the horizon and it's visible. Yeah, and it's quite in the equal house system, we'd say that's in the 12th house along with your Mercury. Okay, so that's 12th house. In the Placidus system, Placidus can't be calculated for your location of birth, which is what I mentioned earlier. It will default to some other system. I think it sometimes uses Regiomontanus, but you would not be able to use the Placidus. If something or a website's telling you they're using that system, I'm going to shout because it can't. It wasn't created. It was created for Europe. And it was created by a European, and I believe they lived in Italy. So they didn't even take into account people that were born higher up. So their calculation systems won't work for people like yourself that are born further up the map. Yeah.
I see.
So, so when you're looking at the analysis of your chart, you have to answer the question, how shy are you? So even though you're a Leo and you've got a Virgo ascendant, if you feel that you need to have me time, which is what the 12th house is all about, then I'd say equal house suits you, and that's important for you to remember for yourself.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. That's a true statement of me. Yeah.
Yeah. Then equal house is probably going to work for you.
And then my Venus is in the 11th house.
Correct.
Yeah.
Friendships. Yeah. Yes. So friendships are super important. And then you've got Moon in Taurus as well. So don't forget to have your dinner on time, that type of thing.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
Does that help?
Yes, definitely. Thank you. So
You're
now
welcome.
I kind of know what to look for. So I'm just going to use the equal houses and just go with that for now. Yeah.
Yeah, use the equal houses to begin with. It's a good one to start out with, and you can branch onto the other systems that you can use for your location of birth later on. Yeah.
Okay. Which one would be the best for so far up north, you think, in your opinion?
Equal house.
Equal house. Equal house is the best for that. Okay.
Yes, it is. It actually is because of that very reason. Now, there's a lady called she was called Margaret. I can't remember her second name, but she wrote a book all about astrology a while back. That's used in one of the astrological schools, and she was very adamant that if you lived in Greenland and Iceland or whatever, no other house system other than equal house would work. Yeah.
Okay, super. Good to know. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, darling. You're welcome.
Thanks. Thank you.
Hi, Mary. Thank you.
Hi, Leah, darling. Yeah.
I was just going to ask with mine. So I've got a stellium in my 6th house and in Aquarius as well. But I think you mentioned, was it in a couple of people's charts they had conjunctions?
Yes.
Between a couple of houses. I don't know if I have that in mine or not. Does every stellium have a conjunction?
No, they don't. You can have because as the example gave, if you had like there's a wide orb with them and you got Jupiter slap bang in the center, that would still be a stellium. But that quote is from Donna Cunningham's book on stelliums. So if anybody wants a copy of that, I just condensed quite a lot of the information down. By all means, ping me an email afterwards and I'll send you a copy of it. But yes, with your chart, that's a whopping stellium you've got. It's a busy little house you got there with 6. There aren't that many people around that have got that amount of planets in one house. Actually, it is pretty rare. Yeah. It's a lot of planets, but if we're going to say what she says is the sun isn't included in that, because the sun can quite easily conjunct with other planets. Yeah, so even if we take the sun out, that still makes 5, and even if we take Venus out and whatever, you still got Uranus, Jupiter and Neptune as a conjunction. And she says that when there are she calls them a triple conjunction, so if we're going to be correct to Donna's thing, we could say you've got a triple conjunction and a stellium, or whatever. Stellium and a triple conjunction, because you've got Venus. Yeah, but whatever way you look at it, your 6th house is pretty packed. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think even because when I've looked into Placidus before, and I think when I had a reading with Georgia, she was saying because my sun is quite a late degree in the Placidus system, it's essentially in my 7th house, because I think it's about 26 degrees, or it might even be a little bit later than that.
Yeah, your sun's 26 degrees 04 and your ascendant is 26 degrees 20, so it's still in your 6th house. I know in some house systems, something's on the barrier of a house cusp. It'll be then included into the next house, which astro.com does with my Mercury, because it uses Placidus. Drives me crazy. I haven't got Mercury in the 8th. I know I've got it in the 7th.
Yeah.
And then I sort of think, if you're saying something when it's on the line then makes it into the 2nd house, how would you play tennis doing that? The ball is either in the line or out of the line. Don't get me started on that, because it'll get me cross. But yeah, I hear why people say that, but I just sort of think, if you're saying that something is in there because of the degrees, it's in there.
Yeah, that makes
It
sense.
can't be somewhere else.
And with the Neptune, because I always thought that was in my 5th house, but is it in my 5th house, but it's in Aquarius, which is my 6th?
No, it's in your 6th house, but it's in the sign of Capricorn.
Oh, okay.
Your Neptune's in the sign of Capricorn in your 6th house, even though a lot of your 6th house is in the sign of Aquarius, because your Jupiter's Aquarius. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got 2 signs of the zodiac. Everybody's got 2 signs of the zodiac in the equal house system. In the whole sign, they don't. But in the equal house, there'll always be 2 signs of the zodiac, but different planets, and different signs can conjunct, because great question, by the way, your Neptune's 28 degrees. And your Jupiter is 5 degrees. So they're only 7 degrees apart. So they're absolutely conjunct, and they're all stuffed into your 6th house as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it gets confusing, doesn't it, with like rulerships and different things like that. But yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Anybody else need to ask a question?
Hi, Mary. It's Kathleen.
Hello,
I have
Kathleen.
a stellium, or maybe, hi, I have a stellium in the 1st house, Leo. I'm a Leo, rising Leo ascendant.
Yes.
But the Mercury is at 7 degrees and the ascendant is at 10. So
Yes.
if I were to use the equal house system, does that mean I do not have a stellium?
No, you've got a stellium. The equal house system doesn't reduce your stellium. It's just that in equal house, your Mercury would be classified as in your 12th house, because your ascendant is 10 degrees and your Mercury is 7. Yeah.
Okay.
Which I think it would be
so
in
it's
any
still
house
considered.
system. Yeah. It's remembered, of course.
So it's still considered a stellium, even though it jumps to the next house.
Yeah, houses.
Even though Mercury jumps to the next house. Yeah.
Yeah, because stellium can be by sign or it can be by house. So you've got all of those planets. They're in the sign of Leo, and they're all pretty close together. But you've pretty much got, I'd say that was a stellium between your 12th and your 1st house, and you've got Sun conjunct Pluto as well. You know, that's an outer planet that's very, very near to your sun sign. So there's a lot of power and transformation going on there. But yeah, you pretty much got a stellium. Absolutely, yeah. It's not. They're not all totally close to each other, like 1 or 2 degrees apart. That Leah has in her chart. They're very, very close, but they're in the same sign and in the same vicinity. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that help? You're welcome. Anybody else got a question? So a house is considered empty. Where did that go? Even if it has other things in there, like the North Node. Yes, it is. Well, again, it depends what you classify empty as being, but North Node and Chiron, Chiron's an asteroid, and there's lots of other things you can add in there, and the North Node isn't a planet. So yes, empty houses are classified as houses that don't contain planets. So planets are everything from the Sun to Uranus, so Pluto even, going a bit further out. But yes, in answer to your question, that's classified as an empty house. Doesn't mean to say that those things that you've got in there have no meaning, because obviously if you've got North Node in your 5th house or something that's important for you to use creativity for your life purpose, or have kids, or have romance, or write a book type of thing. So Liz says she has 5 empty houses. Yeah, get you. You've got loads of empties. Let's see if we've got any other questions in here. Windsor Castle. Thank you, Laura. You should know. I couldn't see the answers. That was the house that burnt down that the Queen was living in. Hello, T. Yeah. Anybody else got any questions? If you cannot turn your microphone on, then stick it in the chat, because I'm now keeping an eye on the chat. I couldn't do it while I was doing the presentation because my whole screen was taken up with the PowerPoint. If you have a question, do lob it over here. Okay, so if there's no more questions, what I'd like to say in closing, I think I'm still recording, yes I am. There's the cheat sheet, which is on my website. If you didn't get a copy of it, just ping me an email and I'll send you that. But it is on my website. It's just maryenglish.com/keywords with a capital K dot, and then TXT will take you there. So if you've lost it, you want to get it, go back there. That's permanently located on my website. So I'm just going to end the recording. So thank you very much for everybody that's been attending today. And let me stop that.